All right, ex-police officer Mike Dowd joins me today to talk about his days patrolling the streets of East New York during the 1980s. The 7-5 is an incredible documentary which details how Mike became a dirty cop who got involved in shaking down drug dealers, stealing drug money, working for a drug kingpin, all while being a New York City police officer. Mike, first of all, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I appreciate it.
You got it, no problem.
All right, Mike. So, during the 1980s, the 75th precinct was pretty much considered to be one of the most dangerous precincts in the country. I mean, talk about being a friggin' 21-year-old kid getting thrown into the asphalt jungle. What the hell was that like?
Well, I mean, you sort of you leading with that description itself. It was like culture shock. Like, oh my God,
Right.
this is for real. Like the things you heard about. Well, this is real. So it just put a real face to the stories that people grew up hearing about. It was like you were in it now. So it was like shock.
Right. I mean, so you become a cop like most cops. They want to do good for the community they're working in. But you get in and they friggin' tell you that, listen, don't arrest drug dealers because
Right.
it's too much work for the city.
Right.
I mean, does that deter you from doing your job?
Well, I mean, so it doesn't start off like that, right? In the beginning, it transitioned from the 70s into the early 80s with the drug world was mostly cocaine. And then when it turned into the crack era, that's when it took off. It became like, let's say tenfold. The activity, the crimes, the money, the action, and what it did was it put people in a position of having to make choices, right? We all make choices, right?
Right.
And mostly money choices we make are based around finances. And so being a member of a large organization that has to pay a huge budget to people, the city began to make choices, right? So in their choice decisions were that we should make less of these types of arrests for drugs and narcotics and just go after the big guys, So the streets became untenuous. It was dangerous. It was constant. It was almost like we were paid protection for the drug dealers because we weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to make street level arrests. Put an intelligence report in, so that maybe a month from now, narcotics officers from from outside the jurisdiction can come in and do an investigation. So you became like your hands were tied. You became frustrated, and you became at some point you become part of the problem because the people are looking at you as the cop on the beat. Like, why aren't you doing anything here?
How do what are you making, like 20 grand a year?
Yeah, I think I started out at 17. So by that time I was making 22, but by the time I think around 22. So, I mean, we can laugh about it, but the fact is, I wasn't there for that. I was there to do the job. Right. And, so you get turned off early on and look, when you're 21, 22, 23 years old and you're seeing all this money and no consequences, you start to it chinks away. Right. It chinks away your soul, So
right. So for my audience who haven't seen the 7-5 documentary, which is phenomenal, it's fucking riveting. I mean, I sat there going into it knowing, well, all right, I've probably seen this story before, type of deal. Right, but I had a buddy text me yesterday or call me. He said, dude, that thing was unbelievable. I go, it's unreal. Yeah. So how do what's the first time you ever took money? What was that like?
I mean, so like we could fast forward like a year and a half, in uniform. And here I am sitting there, like I'm living a life, trying to make a life and broke. Right. So you pull over. Yeah. We're broke. Right. Most of us. I'm an Irish donkey. I'm going to be broke till I die.
Same thing, dude.
So whatever. But so you pull over a guy and he's got, a knot of hundreds and he's 17 years old. He's got a knot of, I got a broken down Honda that I repaired. I bought it wrecked and repaired it so that I could afford the Honda, right? And I got $6 in my pocket to get. And
you take your wife out to dinner. You can't even go to dinner.
No, that was a treat every like month or two, right? So here you are dealing with the dilemma of, here's this guy. He doesn't really speak English. He's got 3,500 and hundreds in his pouch, and he just came over. He just got here, and I'm like, it doesn't even. I can't justify this, So I'm like, you know what? I can use a few dollars right now, bro. And sure enough, I hit him up for the lobster lunch story, which Mark Wahlberg co-opted and put it in one of his recent movies. Because he was supposed to be involved with the 7.5 at some point, maybe a remake.
So who's doing it? Sony?
Nah, right now it's in another group's hands right now.
Okay.
So it's been battling back and forth. I can't get into who's involved right now.
Yeah, that's usually
but
how
anyway,
it goes.
So I said to the guy, how about a lobster lunch? Because, lobsters are cheap, right? We all know that. And so he left a couple $100 in the car. I can't be quoted whether it was 100, 200, or 300. All I know was a hell of a lot more than I had on me at the time. And so that was the beginning of feeling the ability to capitalize on something that I saw. It felt, I was nervous, believe it or not. I was very nervous, But at some point, it felt like, wow, this is pretty, this is available, So,
so for the sake of time, Mike, we got like 33 minutes. This
right.
Zoom shit, they only give you like 40 minutes. Anyways,
right.
Adam Diaz played a big role, obviously, in this story. Talk about the first time they met him. He's the drug kingpin.
So it's funny because he reminds me that I met him before we actually had the meeting. So apparently I had met him outside of one of his locations, and I met him. And as he tells me the story, I recall there's this really sharp-looking guy, Capizios, the whole loafers, sharp dress, balloon parachute pants back in the day. Right?
Oh yeah.
hair tight. He's standing in front of this building. He's redoing a VCR. He made a brand new VCR place, on this corner. Turns out that was the first time I met him. So and I didn't know that until after we sat down at the meeting in Barron's shop. So what happened was Barron confronted me and said, listen, I got a guy that would like to, would like the information for money. And I'm like, dude, I really don't have much to tell these guys because I'm not a narcotics cop, except that I could probably give them a buffer at some point. Like, listen, close down.
Yeah, right.
Say that every day of the week, and it's a smart move, right?
Right.
Narcotics is coming, right? So, and then when you close down and narcotics doesn't get, wow, that was really smart. We closed down and we didn't get busted, right? So I figured, how can I lose, right? So I agreed to meet him, and I said, listen, I'm not going to just talk to somebody. I feel like Hunter Biden in a way. I'm not going to talk to somebody if they're not going to hand me some money up front, because I'm risking myself the minute I talk. So, he agreed I picked up a random number that made sense in my head, $24,000. He gave us a bag with $24,000 of cash in it. It was like a 6-pack, and you're like, now it's real. Like, this is real money. That money in that bag was probably equivalent to what I would have made that year. So I split it with my, so I was like,
so they give you, on top of that, he gave you $8,000 a week, no?
Right, correct.
What did he get in return for his investment?
Well, actually, he probably got more than he deserved, to be honest. Because I put a lot of time and effort and energy into making sure that his place was, let's say, blanketed with surveillance from the other side. One, to keep the criminals away, and two, to give him some insight that I would recommend as a law enforcement officer. Like, you probably shouldn't have guys with gold chains and Mercedes-Benz hanging out in front of your store all day, because that brings a little bit of heat, right? So I made a lot of suggestions in that area to him, so what did I give him? I gave him some knowledge, some wisdom, and the fact if I knew somebody was gonna bust him, which I ended up one time saving a major bust at his location. I happened to see some guys undercover sitting in the area, and I said, hey, how you doing, guys? Oh, great, yeah. We're hitting this place around the block, in a couple hours. Okay, now there's 7 spots around the block. So I don't know which one, so I take a guess. I tell Diaz's organization, shut it down. I give them the old shut it down thing. I don't even know the guys because I don't never talk to them.
Right.
I never talk to these people. So I walked into this bodega, picked up 2 Heinekens, walked up to the counter. He opened the Heinekens for me, no money, and I go, shut it down now. And I just walked out the door. I don't know if he knew what I meant, but apparently they hit the place with like 20 undercover and whatnot. And of course, thankfully, there was no. They knew at that point that it's not like a robbery. There's no shootout thing. You know what I mean? So, in some respect, I felt okay with that. But you got to justify everything you do, right? Because when you're wrong, you're wrong.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, Mike, in terms of for his competitors, drug deal, what did you do for his competitors?
yeah, so we put pressure on them. You know, we pull people over, we'd make them uncomfortable. You know, my friends used to go in and rob them and stuff like that. You know, so yeah, well, that's part of the story that people don't know. We had a whole crew of cops got arrested for robbing the competition. Like it was, you know, all over the news.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You
That
know,
was
they went to a bodega, robbed the place as cops because they were off-duty cops, and they ended up, you know, getting arrested, 3 of them. Yeah.
so you and your partner getting 8,000 each, or are you splitting 8,000?
No, splitting 8,000.
Oh, you splitting 8,000. Okay.
Yeah.
What happens when he doesn't
Well,
pay?
yeah.
What happens if he didn't pay you?
Well, we had an arrangement that he would pay. He would always pay until we ended the agreement, and it didn't always work out that way. But if it didn't, he'd throw some cocaine or something like that to make up the difference. So, you know, it led to vacations in the DR and stuff like that. I went there one time just to get the money from him. I said, dude, you owe me, you know, 8 weeks. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money you owe me, you know.
And you pulled him over. You pulled him over.
Well, I couldn't find him for the one payday. I couldn't find him. I pulled him over.
And where was he? Where was he?
He was in Yale.
He was in Yale, in Connecticut.
Yeah, that's right. I said, Yale, what are you doing in Yale? I go, you have friends in school? He goes, I have a lot of friends in Yale. I go, oh, you have a lot of friends in Yale. Wait, up in Connecticut? He goes, no, Rikers Island. I said, oh. You mean jail, not Yale.
That's a tough school. That's a tough school.
Jail, not Yale.
So Mike, you get a call, you and your partner, for a burglary in the beginning. I mean, talk about that, because it's insane.
Okay, so the burglary where the money is?
Yeah. The two girls.
Yeah. So I'm working with this female who's IAD. I know she's IAD. So
She's internal affairs.
yeah, she's internal affairs. And I come across this load of money inside a house where these girls were burglarizing it. And so a couple of questions to the girls, and they made it clear that their friend was arrested for selling narcotics last night. I said, oh, that's nice. So, you know, usually in a house, there's something or not, right? So we took a cursory look. I opened the closet, and there's a big bag filled with cash, like a leaf bag, like a black leaf bag that you would see. I'm like, oh, this is nice, you know. This is nice, but what am I going to do? I got this female internal affairs officer working with me, and I got a bunch of cops that are, you know, legit standing around. So I turned around and I said, you know what? We don't have a warrant to take this money. This is a burglary. They're here to steal something, and they didn't get the money. So let's just leave it here. It's a lot of work to just count it all. And we're going to count it and then give it back to the person when they come out of jail. We'll give it to the state if the person doesn't claim it. So anyway, long story short, I get on the phone. I call Chicky. Chicky doesn't have a car. He can't, you know, his car's in the shop. I said, steal one. Do what you get one, rent one. So he ended up calling one of our other retired cops, and he actually drove from Brooklyn to Long Island to pick him up to drive back to Brooklyn. And I kept circling the house for like an hour, waiting for them to show up. And so they showed up, and they got in their plain clothes, looked like detectives. They went inside, came out with a bag of cash. I pulled them over. How'd we do? Real good. We're going to Atlantic City. I called up the desk officer, said, listen, I gotta go home. You know, my old lady's not feeling good. Jumped in the car, hit the limousine to Atlantic City, and cleaned up the money. So it was nice.
Yeah, you washed the money in the legs. But
Yeah.
what the hell was she saying? I mean, you drive around in circles, she probably got dizzy. I mean, did she say, what the hell are you doing? This is what you do all night?
No, so yeah.
I mean, how good could she be?
Yeah, right. Well, so I said to her, I'm just going to stay close to the area because the door wasn't secured. The door on the house wasn't secured. So I said, I'm going to stay close, keep an eye on it, make sure no one comes in and tries to re-burglarize the place after they took 2 people away that they charged with burglary. So she understood that. Plus, it was in my sector. So it wasn't like, you know, I would imagine she was getting dizzy, but I wasn't. It was my seat. She was just on for the ride. You know, my partner wasn't in for the day. So she basically had to follow whatever my rule was. You know, I was in control.
But did she go back to her superiors and tell her what happened? How was your night? What happened? Did you observe him? We drove around all night. There should be a red flag.
You know, that's one thing I wouldn't know because I don't work for internal affairs, right? So,
right.
So I don't know what her duty was called for, but she might have had a little note in there saying, "Yeah, we circled the building for 2 hours or something."
You're right. That's what I mean.
I tried to legitimize it by saying, we had to keep an eye on the place. Well, she didn't know about she didn't know about the money.
She didn't know about the money.
She didn't know about the money, right?
Wow. I mean, so Mike, I mean, you got all this cash on you. You're pretty much living like a wise guy. You know what I mean? In terms of like a mafia type of guy.
Right.
Is it so much the thrill of just taking? What was it like? In terms of.
Well, I guess it's like a disease. It's like a disease.
Right. You
like
want
an
more.
Addiction.
It's like an addiction. Right.
Yeah. You never get enough. You want more. Life is, you're never happy. You're never happy. You're always seeking more. You're always seeking to find like one condo, 2 houses, brand new van, the Bahamas, Atlantic City, Vegas, you're an empty soul, really, at this point.
Now, obviously you get paid every week or bi-weekly or whatever it is, but you would not, your regular checks from being a police officer.
Right.
I mean, were you picking them up? The charity work?
Well, I mean, you saw the movie, so you realize that.
Yeah, right.
At times I would leave them and forget, So, and it wasn't like I knew they were there, but like there was no urgency to get them, right? So, and the funny thing is, I learned something. I didn't know that every shift, the desk officer has to count the numbers of checks that are still in the checkbox. So I didn't know that, right? So I found that out many years later that they knew that my checks weren't picked up and I was at work. I mean, here I am.
No direct deposit. No direct deposit.
So I'm coming into the station house and leaving without my check. I mean, what cop can do that?
Who does that?
That doesn't happen.
I'm
laughing about it, but
right. Obviously, it's a very serious situation. And what is your home life like? Coming home with that stress every night or every day?
Well, I'll give you an example. So at some point I would drive to work and I would, cops drive 90, they don't give a fuck. So I'm driving 90 and normally I'd be in the left-hand lane, but I started to go in the right-hand lane in case I crashed because, my whole body was cut in half. My nerves were shot. My feet would go numb. My body, the stress was just overwhelming. I would check. When I pulled up to the precinct, I would check to see if there's any cars that were unfamiliar. It's like going home and you're a wise guy. You check the neighborhood or
right.
You're
like the Goodfellas, the scene from Goodfellas.
Exactly. The neighborhood or that car doesn't belong here. What are they doing here? I would do that at work. I would drive to work, get out of the car, and check and look at every car. Ooh, wait a minute, that car looks different. And then if it looked different, I'd sneak around and see. Who could they be here for? I'm thinking it's me I'm thinking it's for me all the time, right? But it's like you walk into the lion's den all the time. After a while, you get annoyed by it. You don't feel the pressure. You don't feel it, but you live it. You don't feel it. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
you live it.
Amazing. You live it. I mean, were you doing it? You using at the time?
Probably.
Everything. Yeah. Probably.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything.
You mentioned, Mike, in '86, the 77th precinct gets busted for corruption. Right. I mean, did that deter you from? You know what? I better back off for a few weeks.
Weeks. Yeah. Actually, I cut it down for a year, maybe even more. I just took a break. I tried. I call straight eights. I tried to.
You picked up your checks every week.
Right. I tried to do the job right, and I pulled away from that type of scenario. But what happened at some point, I ended up no one would work with me. Like they wouldn't work with me. Like I couldn't get a partner because I was too good. And not that I'm saying you had to be bad, but I was just doing everything right. And they're like, wait a minute, something's wrong with you. You're being too good. That means you're working for the man. You're working for internal affairs. So
right. I mean,
it was
did any cops know your reputation?
Yeah,
privately, they all know.
They all did, but they never told me. They never told me. like they shake their head like you just did.
Yeah, I don't know. I never knew it. He's up to something, but I don't know. Right. So how did you meet? How did you hook up with Kenny, your partner?
So that story comes out of me getting stuck with these different offices. Like I was working with different people, and that's no way to work because you want to have some kind of steady cohesion. It's hard.
Again, you don't know if they're IA or what.
I don't know who. Yeah, right. And several of them were. So,
wow.
So we approached each other. I made an offer to him. I told him, listen, if there's 3 pieces of rice on the table, one for you, one for my wife, one for my son, I'll go hungry, and I said, that's how it is. But I said, this is how I like to do things. I said, look, it's not an active thing. It's if we come across something, let's go home with it. I mean, what was the drug dealer's going to call the police on us? I mean, let's just, let's just make a score. So he said, you know what? He went for it, hook, line, and sinker. I mean, it wasn't like I was trying to dupe the guy. And we were local guys. He lived 2 towns away from me on Long Island. We become fast friends. We become partners. Now you become like a relationship. Your family's relations, everything's tied in. Your mother, your father, your family, everybody knows everybody then, So you feel like he's a brother now, right? And even more than a brother because you spend 8.5 hours a day in the car with the guy. And then afterwards, choir practice for another 3-4 hours. You're out pounding him down or something. So you can't be any closer than that, right? You don't see your brother that much normally.
Or your wife, yeah. Or your wife or your kids. Right? What's going on with Diaz now? You obviously still working for him?
Today?
No, not today.
No.
Last week. No.
So the introduction happened when I started to work with Kenny. Then the introduction happened to Diaz.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't. Before that, I would say I was freelancing a bit. Like what we'd call shakedowns. It was all shakedowns along the way, or opportunities where money was found in bags, cars, dead bodies with money under them, guns, whatever. Whatever was available, we took. Just the way it was. I mean, so or we get a tip on a guy got arrested and his house was left, open, and we go in and take the money out if you forgot it, So it was just, look, it's the wild, wild west, man. It was like,
right.
It was, right. We were in control, disorganized control, if you know what I mean. Like if shit went down, no one questioned the cops. Like we never got questioned. And if you did get questioned, you had an answer. And if you had an answer, you were good. So.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, just to tell for my audience listening on the YouTube right now, this story was huge when you guys got pinched. I mean, Amy, what the hell's her name? Amy Fisher was on the front page. You blew her right off. That's how big it was. 60 Minutes. I mean, it wasn't like a Mickey Mouse type of bust. A couple of rogue cops.
Yeah, they made this into something big. Yeah, Mike Wallace, Barbara Walters. Yeah, they all made it into something big. But I was the perfect storm, right? I was the white guy from Long Island that was in the ghetto taking money and drunks, right? So they had, and the city was endemic with the same thing. Black, white, Spanish, Irish, German, Jewish, didn't matter. Everybody was doing this type of thing. When I say everybody, I don't want to be disparaging to the good guys because there were many. Right. But I'd say 20% of the guys on the job were doing something like that. So that's a lot, right?
Right. So, Michael, you said you obviously shaking down drug dealers, and the community itself knew that you were doing that.
Well, they didn't know me.
But they were happy about it. They were happy about it. You know what I mean? They were happy that you were shaking these guys down, throw them out of the neighborhood. No?
The community at large knew that a lot of us were taken from the drug dealers, but all they cared about is that they didn't get killed. So it was such a, I guess, a harmonious relationship. They knew we were shaking these people down. But the fact is that they knew that as long as we were there shaking these people down, they were safe. No one was getting killed.
Right.
It's an odd way to put it, but it is what it is. It's like the wise guys, the mob, right? You go to a strong Italian mafia type neighborhood, everybody knows that stuff is going down, but they felt safe, right? I mean, I don't know where you're from, but
that's right. I mean, yeah, right. And so all this shit's going on. The stress is on. You're using cocaine, whatever you get your hands on. I mean, talk about the day you got busted. What was that like? First of all, I want to get back to, sorry, we'll circle back to the supposed kidnapping.
Oh, so that happens after the bust, right? So that's while I'm out on bail. that situation you're talking about. So we're getting a little ahead, but I'll give you the story.
Okay.
It's an interesting story. So I'm out on bail. Urel, I don't know this. I don't know. But Urel comes by and we get in the car, we go for a ride, and he tells me, starts asking me a bunch of questions. And I turn around to him and I say, why are you asking me questions that I know that you know the answers to? And I said, are you wearing a wire? He goes, no, I would never do that. Blah, blah, blah. I would never do that to you. I love you more than my own brother. Blah. Okay, good. So I said, listen, Kenny, I'm looking at 25 to life, maybe. I said, I'm looking to leave the country. I said, so if something happens, that we can find a way to put together a nice pot of money, because everybody put their houses up for bail and shit. I couldn't leave my parents and my brothers without their homes. So I figured, look, if I get a good lick, I'll leave them $500,000 and I'll leave the country and everybody's happy, you know? At least if they lost their house for the bail, they could at least get the cash in their pocket. I'm desperate, right?
You're looking at 25 to life.
Yeah, I'm looking to go. But I don't want to hurt my own people, right? So all of a sudden, out of the blue comes this situation where a woman owes like $800,000 or $500,000 in cash, plus she's got 10 kilos in her house, and that all we got to do is go take it from this woman. So I don't know this, but Kenny's wearing the wire, and he's setting this whole thing into action.
Sorry, I gotta move my computer. My friggin' outlet doesn't work.
Yeah, he's planting a seed he's planting a seed for this activity to take place. Where now I'm confronted with an opportunity to get the money. I'm confronted with an opportunity to get the money to leave the country. Yeah. So I find it relatively insignificant to go to this house, with some flowers in my hand and tell a lady, can you move out of the way? We're going to take your money and your drugs. You got $500,000 in cash, 10 kilos. Everybody's happy. So along the way, because Kenny's working with the feds, he starts pumping it. He starts pumping it from what you would call a push-in robbery, a burglary, whatever you would call that, to get someone's drug stash and money. He starts going, well, they're going to want to kill her. And I'm trying to refute that. Well, what for? What for? I'm not going to kill her. Finally, I go, all right, so let's just throw her in the car. Like you hear me on tape saying, all right, we'll just throw her in the back seat of the car or the trunk, whatever. He won't let go. They're going to kill her. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. You don't hear all that insistence. You don't hear all the insistence on the tape recorded version of it, because they cut it, I guess. But so finally, we're on our way to the house. There's a woman in the house. All we're gonna do is surveil the place and go home. That's all we're doing. Surveil the place, go home. Meantime, I got a scanner in the car. So we're almost at the house. I turned to Kenny. I says, hey, Kenny, what are you doing? Put the scanner on. That's your fucking job, you fucking schmuck. He's fixing his hair. So anyway, he turns the scanner on, and bingo, 107 patrol car 3 to Central. Yeah, I got a call from passerby that there's someone, they think there's someone staking out a house on Enron Street. I'll just give you, I don't know the name. Avon,
right.
On Avon Street. So I look at Kenny, I go, that's the block that we're going to. He goes, well, we're not going there to do burglaries. We're going there to do a kidnapping. So I said, excuse me? I go, first of all, we're not going there to do a kidnapping. Second of all, what's the difference? The cops are set up on the block watching the neighborhood. So
Mike, at any point, did you ask Kenny if he was wearing a wire?
Yeah, you missed that. I said
you
that
did?
earlier. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you never asked him.
Yeah, no, in the car when he came to my
sorry.
house.
I had
to before we laid this plan, I asked him.
Yeah, sorry.
Point blank. No, I love you. You're like my brother. I would never do that. Anyway, so now we're almost at this house, and I turn to him. I go, Kenny, they're watching the house. He goes, no, they're watching the block, not the house. So I go, oh, okay. So we're safe then, right? Get the fuck out. So I go, he goes, well, I'm not coming all the way here and not going to that door. I said, first of all, that's not the plan. We're not even here for that. He goes, well, I'm not going through all this without going to that door. I said, I look at him, I go, you motherfucker, something's up with you.
Yeah.
But I said, you're setting me up. And now I see the cars everywhere closing in on me. Like I see it's the random cars going this way and that way. Guys on phones back then, they had these phones. The feds had phones and shit, you know? So I go, this doesn't look good. So I jump right back onto the Grand Central Parkway and head home. And turns out I was right. This time I was right. Meanwhile, he's got it all on wire. I get home. I walk in the door. My ex-wife, my wife at the time, turns to me and says, how'd your day go? I said, not very good. Wow. She goes, well, what happened? I said, well, we went to this place to check something out, and I think we were followed, and Kenny's trying to set me up. She goes, oh, that's interesting, because his wife told me last night, if I never see you again, just remember I love you and Mike.
Wow.
I said, excuse me?
Shit.
I said, excuse me? She says, well, she told me that last night. I says, don't you think you might have told me that last night? If they never see us again? We're planning a fucking burglary, a kidnap, whatever you want. We're planning this thing tomorrow. And you're telling me that's what was said last night? So she knew. The wife knew. She told my wife. And so, P.S., they had the lasso around me. Once you step out to do something like that, you're done. You know that. I mean, because now it's all done. It's all done. So, anyways, they ended up coming to my house. Now I'm out on bail for my city charges. So that's when the Fed stepped in, put the wire on Kenny, and wrapped me in this whole RICO racketeering indictment. I mean, there's a lot we're leaving out to get to this.
Just for time constraints. So, I mean, for my audience out there, I mean, watch the documentary. It's called The 7-5. It's incredible. It really is. It's riveting. So what happens? They want to give you like 25 to 30 years.
Well, the first plea offer was like 24 to 30 years. You know, that's how the feds work. Like it's like a book. They write a little note. Yeah, you know. Right. I'm like, what did I do? I took some money.
Killed nobody.
I did a few fucking deals. I made a few deals. I didn't know how the feds work. You know, now I know why I don't want to go to the feds, right? Oh, it's easy time. Yeah, easy. You get an awful lot of it. It's easy for nothing. So they offer me 24 to 30 years. I tell them no. I tell them no. I tell them no. I tell them no. I got them down to 17, and then the McAleary comes out. McAleary, the Pulitzer Prize-winning scumbag. He writes the
Hall of Famer. Yeah.
He writes the article about me killing 9 people, and I'm like, oh fuck, man, how am I gonna go to trial now? Anyway, so the Marlin Commission came to me, approached me, asked me if I would help them. I told them no twice. Go fuck yourself twice. And then the third time, I'm on the phone with my lawyer. Says, this guy's he's got me 9 bodies on. I don't even have one yet. I mean, can I? I got 9. What the fuck? He says, well, listen, not for nothing, but the Marlin Commission called me today and said that if you would consider talking to them, you might need a friend in the courtroom. Anyway, so long story short, I agreed to talk to them, tell them how to catch me. That was my testimony. I gave nobody up. I sat down with them. I drew a roadmap on how you can catch me. They caught the whole 30th precinct or something like that. They called the Dirty 30, the whole midnight shift. Yeah. I don't know. And I didn't do it. You guys should know. Hello, the police are out there. And
so then you go to, so you get convicted, Michael, and you go. I mean, what was life? Obviously, for you're an ex-cop, and I mean, there's a lot of bad guys in jail.
So you're in Boston. Well, you're from Boston.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a Boston story because I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah. So give me that chair, please.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Now I'm in the prison now, probably 8, 9, 10 years at this point. I had, did 12 and a half years, and I'm in McKean, Pennsylvania. McKean, yeah, I think I'm in McKean, and some guy Mike from Boston, he was in there for beating up a Fed cop at a park, like a federal guy at the park that cuts lumber and shit. Anyway, he got drunk and beat the guy up, and he got 5 years for it. So he probably gave him a good beating, right? So and Boston guys, they're hard, right? So they're very known for being hard, right? So especially the Boston Irish, they're like sick. Anyway, so this guy Mike, I'm walking the compound one day. I had just gotten transferred to McKean. I caused a hunger strike in Devens, Massachusetts. Whatever. I had my little things, I wasn't. I wasn't really liked, but I was respected in prison because, one, I didn't give nobody up. Two, you know, I can handle myself. And three, you know, I didn't punk out. I didn't check in. I was doing my thing. You don't like me here. That's your problem, not mine. You know, if you want to have a confrontation, there's the mop room over there. Whatever you want, you know, you got to stand up. So anyway, so this guy Mike comes up to me one day, and this is really pretty cool. Like it touched me because a week before, some guy the size of this building told me, you're in the wrong bowl, man. And I looked at him. I says, nah, fuck. You know, I'm taking a pee. Your dick is shriveling up. I'm like, oh God, you know, monster, right? And I go, excuse me, now I gotta be hard, right? You're in the wrong bowl. He's telling me. What does that tell you? Right? What do you think's going on here? Right? The guy's a buck the size of this building. Oh, I'm in trouble, right? You're in the wrong bowl. So I go, fuck. So I go, and you want to lick the bowl? I don't know what the fuck. What do you want? You know. So he looks at me. He goes, "Won't you take it easy, man?" So I look at this mountain, and I go, "What do you mean take it easy? I got to fight, right? I mean, this is it, right?"
You'll get killed, but it's all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it, right?
I'm not a punk. Yeah, you're not a punk.
Right, it's not gonna work. Either way, it's gonna be bloody. So he goes, he goes, your bowls, man. Oh, I thought you said you're in the wrong bowl, man. He said, your bowl. So, oh, okay. All right, thanks a lot. Anyway, so then I run into this guy, Mike, and Mike says to me from Boston, he says, which is really nice and humbling. He said, I thought I was a man until I saw you. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is very poetic. This is poetic. Like, let's write this down, right? So he goes,
right.
He goes, I want to say hello to you and I want to walk the track with you because I respect you. He said, but I don't have the balls to do it because I don't want to deal with the bullshit from all these other assholes in this place. You know, peer pressure in prison's the same thing.
Right.
So,
wow.
So
wow.
It made me feel, you know, because, you know, you lose a lot of dignity going to prison. You know, you lift your balls, open your, you know, stand, hold, touch, cough, the whole bit. And for some guy to come up to me and say that, it made me know that whatever I was doing right. So, and I respected and appreciated that. And one of the things, a couple of guys would come up to me on the side and he said, we're looking out for you, just so you know. So, you know what I mean? Because they know about
right.
So yeah.
Mike, we got less than a minute left because it's going to shut us off automatic. So I mean, at the premiere of the documentary, the 75, did you speak with Kenny?
Yeah, we spoke. We put it together. We spoke. We worked a little bit together. You know,
okay.
Touchy feely, not too much. Just, you know, professional. And the end result was his wife and I had words, so we haven't really spoken since.
All right. Is there going to be a book? I mean, I know you're making a movie. They're going to someday.
I'm waiting to write. I have a writer. We're not working together right now. I don't know what happened. I put so much effort into it. I don't know where it's going. I mean, I put like 3 months into this one guy, you know, and people.
Okay. Yeah. That's how the shit goes. Yeah.
Writers can be a little flaky, you know.
Oh yeah.
Takes a lot of energy to tell
strange people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're strange people.
I don't know if you're a writer.
Yeah, I do some writing. Yeah, I do some writing. But Mike, I appreciate this because we're going to get you. It's going to zap us right off. And thank you so much. And be safe. And hopefully we'll see you on the big screen. Who's going to play you? Who do you want to play you?
I don't know. I wanted Wahlberg, but then there's like Tom who? Tom Ellis or something. I don't know. Some guy named
Ellis. Tom Hardy?
Hardy.
I never heard of him. Tom Hardy.
Hardy, no? Yeah, Tom Hardy. I like Tom.
All right, Tom Hardy. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Not too much resemblance, Mike, but I wouldn't mind him playing you.
Back in the day.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. Mike, I appreciate this, and be good, and we'll talk to you soon, Mike.
God bless you.
God bless. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.